It's the summer of 1983 and a young footballer has just begun his professional career in France. We didn't know it at first, but this Frenchman would go on to become an emperor in football. His unmatched aura, elegance, and even his arrogance would draw millions of fans to the sport. Eric Cantona scored goals and made dribbles we had not witnessed for years. For all his brilliance, Eric Cantona often found himself at the center of controversy, and let's just say it got really bad for anyone who dared to fight him. Cantona started off initially wanting to become a goalkeeper like his father, but his creative instincts wouldn't let him be. Soon enough, he found himself banging in goals for his first team, Auxerre. But his first disciplinary problem would come in 1987 when he punched fellow Auxerre teammate and goalkeeper Bruno Martini in the face following an argument. Cantona received a hefty fine for giving his teammate a black eye. If only we knew that there was more to come from the man with such an abrasive personality. The following year, while still playing for Auxerre, Cantona found himself on the receiving end of a 3-month suspension after pulling out a UFC move in what was nothing short of an atrocious tackle on Nantes player Michel Derzakarian. Oh, and I should also mention that the Frenchman followed that up with a slap in the face to someone else. The 3-month ban was later reduced to 2, but Cantona could care less. He was already looking to fry a bigger fish. Cantona made the switch to Marseille, but soon after, he got banned again. What did he do this time? He went on to rant on national television, calling the national French team manager Henri Michel a bag of shit.
Je lisais un truc de Mickey puisque c'est un gars que j'adore, qui disait que celui qui s'occupait des Oscars à Hollywood là était un sac à merde.
Cantona then went on to further call the manager the most incompetent in all of football. As you would expect, he got ousted from the national team for a year. And if you're wondering what triggered such an outburst, it's simply because Cantona was dropped from what could have very well been a meaningless international friendly against Czechoslovakia. Cantona felt hard done by and thought Michel didn't communicate properly by not informing him personally. Cantona only managed to return to the national team after Michel was replaced by Michel Platini, but not before some more shenanigans. During a friendly game against Torpedo Moscow, Cantona kicked the ball at the crowd, then ripped off his shirt in anger and threw his boots into the stands after being substituted.
Cantona fans thought that would be the end of the controversy. He was only just starting to live up to his enfant terrible image. Sent off against Torpedo Moscow, he responds by throwing his shirt at the referee and is promptly banned by the Marseille president Bernard.
Marseille responded by banning him for a month. You see, even as a young chap, Cantona was already doing things no other footballer dared to. His emotions were quickly getting him into trouble with his career, which had yet to fully take off. Really pissed off at Cantona's attitude, club owner Bernard Tapie told him that he would never play for Marseille again. And just like that, Cantona was shipped out on loan to Montpellier. At this point, anyone would have considered turning a new leaf. But Cantona was built differently. The numerous suspensions and fines only fanned the flames because no sooner we saw Cantona threaten Montpellier and another teammate. Cantona launched his boots at his teammate Jean-Claude Lemot and threatened to beat him to a pulp after the team lost to Lille. The incident led to 6 players demanding that Cantona be sacked. However, with the support of teammates like Laurent Blanc, the club gave him a slap on the wrist with a 10-day ban. Cantona would then come back to help the team to the French Cup title. Too good to be ignored, Cantona was recalled to the Marseille squad and once again shone brightly, leading Marseille to their first league title in 2 decades. But after a bit of falling out with the club chairman and manager, Cantona moved to Nîmes for 10 million francs. But there was more drama to come. After being angry at a decision, Cantona threw the ball at a referee, walked off the pitch, and earned himself yet another ban from the French Football Federation.
Never one to suffer fools gladly, he snaps when a refereeing decision goes against him. And this time,
the ban was supposed to run for about a month, but the larger-than-life Cantona wasn't pleased. Disappointed in how the Federation had treated him, he walked up to members of the disciplinary hearing committee and called each of them an idiot. As you would expect, the suspension was extended to 2 months, and Cantona announced his retirement from football in December 1991 at just 25 years old. Cantona's career could have ended before he even stepped foot in England. Thankfully, it wasn't for too long. Despite his difficulties in Ligue 1, Cantona had a huge fan in Michel Platini. Platini persuaded him to come back out of his premature retirement, and after seeking more counsel, a move to England was in the works. It was going to be a new beginning for the Frenchman. He signed for Leeds for £900,000, and the impact in terms of goal contributions was immediate, helping the club win the final First Division title before the formation of the new Premier League. In his second season at Leeds, Cantona had scored 11 goals in 20 games before the turn of the year. But for all the 18 months of success, he still had a growing rift with Leeds manager Howard Wilkinson, who criticized his work ethic and attitude. This ultimately led to what many people now call the most important phone call in the first decade of the Premier League. Leeds reached out to Manchester United to inquire about fullback Dennis Irwin, but the club rebuffed the request and said that Irwin wasn't for sale. Fergie then suggested he might swap Irwin for Eric Cantona. Soon enough, a £1.2 million deal was struck, and the rest, they say, is history. Cantona inspired United to become the dominant team of the 1990s. His arrival coincided with the birth of the new Premier League era, which essentially made him one of the most influential figures in English football. On the pitch, he had the most assists in the league in the 1992 and 93 and 1996 and 97 seasons, scored a bunch of goal of the season contenders, won the PFA Player of the Year, FWA Footballer of the Year, a truckload of other awards and records. Cantona was also a fashion icon and was making such an impression on the English audience with the way he carried himself, especially when he popped his collar. But there was more to come with the controversies. He once got fined £1,000 by the Football Association for spitting at a Leeds fan in his first game at Ellen Road with Manchester United, and also punched an ITN reporter who filmed his pregnant wife wearing a bikini during a break in the Caribbean, an act which barely anyone criticized. During an FA Cup clash between Manchester United and Wimbledon in 1994, which ended in a 3-0 defeat to Wimbledon, Vinnie Jones took a swipe at several United players, including Roy Keane and Eric Cantona.
Dear, that's inexcusable, frankly. Vinnie Jones should be booked for that.
The atrocious fouls happened right in front of the referee, but even after being fouled, Cantona immediately got back up and didn't pretend like he needed hospital admission, as we see with some players these days. He immediately walked away and got his revenge with this stunner against Vinnie Jones' side.
Chelsea's coming in, Elkins header only goes to Cantona!
However, nothing prepared us for what was to come the following year. On a dark evening on January 25, 1995, Manchester United played Crystal Palace at Sellers Park. Cantona's short temper had let his teammates down again. He was shown a red card for retaliation following a clash with defender Richard Shaw.
Cantona trying to get on his way, had a little kick at Shaw there out of frustration, and the linesman had a very good view of it. Now, temperature's rising and out comes the red card. There's the morning headline. Eric Cantona. 4 times he walked last season.
While leaving the pitch, fans screamed at and insulted Cantona in more ways than one. Not one to let racial abuse slide, Cantona broke free from the escort and launched a 2-footed kick toward an abusive supporter's chest, followed by a flurry of punches for good measure.
Oh, what's going on here? Cantona's getting involved with some supporters. Oh, this is outrageous. Norman Davis, the Manchester United kitman, trying to pull him away.
That night quickly became one of the most infamous nights in Premier League history, thanks to Cantona's actions towards the Palace fan named Matthew Simmons. Watching the footage back now, even after seeing it hundreds of times, it is still unbelievable to imagine any player replicating anything remotely similar to what Cantona did. Although Cantona being sent off was a letdown already, many fans describe Cantona's kung fu kick as the Frenchman kicking racism in the face. Many expected the Frenchman to be given a prison sentence for assault and be banned from the game for life. However, his 2-week prison sentence turned into 120 hours of community service on appeal. He was also given a 4-month suspension and a £20,000 fine by Manchester United, but the FA extended the ban to 9 months and fined Cantona a further £10,000. Cantona's only regret? Not kicking the fan a lot harder.
feel regret for what you did, or because I read somewhere where someone said, you know, what things did you enjoy the period? You said, I enjoyed kicking the hooligan.
I don't have any regrets, no.
Following the ban, Cantona no longer wanted to play football, but Fergie made a private trip to convince Cantona to come back. Fergie would later reveal that he was more than willing to deal with any baggage that came with having Cantona. That's how good he was. Cantona came back from the ban and ended up having more success on the pitch, as he won 2 successive league titles before announcing his shock retirement at the end of the 1996 and 97 season. The Red Devils won 4 Premier League titles and 2 FA Cups with Cantona as their talisman, and the Frenchman would end up with 82 goals and about 180 appearances for the club. Although he was a loose cannon, everyone loved having Cantona at the center of the team because nobody had such a great impact on a football club like him. He was the undisputed king of Old Trafford. Retiring at only 30 years old was such a bummer for fans, but Cantona wanted to go out on top, and part of his decision to retire early also had to do with his desire to pursue other interests, most notably cinema. Cantona said, "I love the game, but I no longer had the passion to go to bed early, not to go out with my friends, not to drink, and not to do a lot of other things. The things I like in life." Let's just say Cantona loved football, but wanted to do other things with his life. For all the highs in his remarkable 14-year career, there were quite a few lows, but it all added up to create one of the most fascinating stories in Premier League history. Cantona will go down in Premier League history as one of the greatest. His aura, skill set, iconic quotes, and literally everything else stood out. But what was your favorite Eric Cantona moment?